I guess we're in a position where we're now focused upon what I referred to as that voice inside your head.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
That is your internal coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Very recently, I've kind of like come to think of my brain as an elephant and a rider, and it's been really helpful to help me manage what goes on in my brain. And this maybe kind of speaks to, like, you know, what I was saying earlier. I could be easily diagnosed with ADHD with the way my brain runs away. So the elephant is like the part of my brain that's always kind of like going to do what it wants to do.
It's going to trample through all these.
Yep. It's going to trample through a forest. It's going to stop and put up some things. Sometimes it might just be pretty stubborn and not want to go anywhere. It's got a mind of its own. But it's intelligent. It's a caring creature, and it can have a rider. So the rider's job is to speak to the elephant when necessary, to calm it or to guide it, but also to train it.
So it's the mahout.
Yeah, it's a mahout. Yeah, and putting all kind of like ethical considerations aside, it also has to be disciplined. Like, discipline is a really important skill that you have to control your brain and your mindset, and to get into some good habits. So I actively practice this every day, and maybe we'll talk about this in a moment. But
how do you do that? Do you do that mentally?
It's taken on different shapes and forms. So I. Probably good to reveal at this point, like I had a life-changing event that happened to me in 2011 when I had a really serious stroke. So I felt I was invincible, immortal. Anything that life could throw at me, I was kind of taking on as a head teacher at that point. And then one day, driving my car, stopped at a garage to have a repair. Had my 2 little girls with me. Started talking to the receptionist, and I just collapsed. Wow. And came round. Don't know how much later it was, and the ambulance crew were there, and they'd obviously phoned my wife. She'd kind of arrived, and they were like, "Oh, this is unusual. We're not really sure what's happened here, but your wife says she's going to take you home. Probably just make sure you're okay." And I was like, "I can't walk." They were like, "What?" So I can't move. They're like, "Right, we better get you to hospital." And then as soon as I arrived in the hospital, the stroke team were there, and they were like, "You've had a stroke." I was like, "What? That doesn't happen to young people."
So what's a stroke, Steve?
So basically it's a brain injury. So I found out that I had a blockage in my brain, and a stroke is where part of your brain dies. So my particular one affected everything down my left-hand side. So I was completely paralysed, so I've lost half my vision. I'm still numb all the way down my left-hand side. I had to have intensive physiotherapy. It took 3 months to learn to walk and to use my arm, my hand again, and the physical symptoms lasted for probably about 10 years, because you also suffer a lot of fatigue because your brain has to like rewire itself. It's really plastic. It's amazing really what it could do. It's like I've got this roadblock in my brain, but now it's rewired and I can do all these things again, and you probably wouldn't notice. But the tiredness lasted for about 10 years. But it was the mental side of things, the mental health side of things, that will never leave me. So I'm now left with, I suffer a lot from anxiety, and you wouldn't probably notice that, but I do, and I have a lot of anxiety about my mental health, but also the work that I do and the things that happen at school, and so I've gone from having this like feeling of I'm invincible to actually no, I'm not. Having to confront I'm going to die at some point.
Do you think you faced your vulnerability in that?
Completely faced my vulnerability, and like post-stroke, I couldn't go into a hospital or a doctor's without having a panic attack. So, I've been in hospital for other people, and then the nurses are having to help me because I've collapsed on the floor rather than the person I'm there with. So I've had to do a lot of work on like my cognitive behavior therapy, like post-traumatic stress syndrome activities. So I've had specific therapies and specific help all the way through. And now what I'd say I do a lot of like journaling, which is quite a popular thing. I think lots of people do, but it's very effective because it allows me to really rationalize what I'm thinking about and find the right perspective, and then put some controls, talk to myself, make sure I'm saying the right things to myself, make sure I'm doing the right things, making sure I'm looking after myself physically, my friends, talking to people. There's a lot that I have to do to enable just so I can function.
So you can exist.
So I can exist, and I go into I can go into quite deep depressions. That's quite a common kind of symptom that I get into. So recognizing sort of the early warning signs are really important for me. So I have to probably work harder at my journaling and talking to other people when I'm kind of going through that. And I'm now also like deeply philosophical. So I'd learn a lot of philosophy to help me to make sense of what I'm feeling and make sense of the world. So I say I'm pretty like stoic in my approach to things now. And so whereas before I was panicking because I didn't want to die, no one wants to die, but now I accept that I'm going to die. And the subtle change there is that I now have to appreciate every day that I have and live my life to the fullest rather than panicking about when it's going to happen, because you just don't know. So I have to remember I am mortal. I have to remember that it could be the run that I have before school every morning might be the last one I ever have. So I may as well get out of bed and enjoy it rather than laying under the covers trying to stay warm. I have to embrace what comes at me. I could spend a lot of time getting wound up about things that happen at school, the difficulties, the complaints, the challenges, but I have to accept that as fate now. I choose to do this job. I choose to take on those things. So an acceptance around those things makes it easier to deal with, because I can't be disappointed then when someone complains about something. It's just my job to manage that. I can't get upset when, the government do all these stupid things that affect schools, because I have no control over the government. I can only control myself. I can only control my own feelings and emotions around the world. So I'd say the last 15 years I've been on a really intense journey around how I manage.
I think it's
my
incredible.
brain.
I think it's incredible that you openly share it as well, because people don't share disability like that.
No, and it's funny because I probably, the parents that listen to this at school will be unaware of those things, and I'd say like 99% of them won't even know that I am disabled. I can't drive because I can only see half of what everyone else can see. I am numb all the way down one side. I get incredibly tired. No one will notice those things. And so,
But I think the thing about it is that socially you learn to mask them, don't you?
Yeah, and I guess for lots of those things, I mean, they don't need to know those things. It doesn't get in the way of me doing my job. But I think certainly with how hard I have to work with my mental health, I don't really talk about that very much unless I'm probably having a direct conversation with a parent and I can relate to them more easily and say,
it's no wonder.
I know how you feel.
The Mahout must have had a really bad day at the office.
Yeah. Sometimes that Mahout is working really hard. And actually, interestingly, it sometimes needs a rest, and I'm not good at rest. So sometimes I have to say, like the Mahout and the elephant have to have what I call intentional rest, because I find it very difficult to sit and do nothing.
But I also think we've learned now, and we've learned so much in the last few years, simply because the number of children growing up have been affected, where we talk about autism. I don't think most people realise or understand how much energy is dissipated just in social action, in social interaction, and how it leaves them exhausted and kind of going, I don't want any more of this. I need to step down. I need to stop doing it.
Yeah. I think probably most of the parents and people in the community will understand that the job I do is quite difficult, and we've got half term next week, and like what I have to do in half term is just try to not engage too much with too many people, because I need that break from it being constantly socially engaging with people. I think they say like teaching's I think only second to like being a dentist, where a dentist is only having to deal with people who are making like really horrible faces at them because they're in like this terrified state of having their teeth done. And when you're teaching and you're in that profession, you are constantly having to read people's emotions. You're constantly having to interact and communicate with them, and it is exhausting. And particularly when you're dealing with dysregulated children and dysregulated adults, that's an enormous effort to try to do what we call containment. So we have to act as this, we have to be able to contain what they're feeling for them to make it survivable. And so when you're trying to make things survivable for other people, it takes a toll on you as well. And not only am I containing children and parents, I'm also containing staff and all the difficulties that they go through, which are always, significant, and colleagues, fellow head teachers. So one of my other roles is mentoring and supporting other head teachers. So you do need these times where you just go and, reset yourself, reground yourself from everything that's kind of going on, because it's exhausting.
You've used the word, and I'm going to develop it, because I'm now beginning to develop almost a feeling inside of me that we need to campaign in some way about the whole concept about mentoring.
Mentoring, yeah.
I'll grow that in a little bit, because I want to give you some examples. I want to talk about that, because it's amazing in these conversations how I see the success of people and their development has been so incredibly influenced by the mentoring that other people have given them. Not necessarily their parents, but friends of their family or whatever, or another respected adult. And I think that's culturally so significant.
Yeah, if I apply it to myself, one of the roles I do in supporting other head teachers is new head teachers. So when I became a new head, I didn't have any mentoring support really. So I give back now, and it's I know I make a difference because they tell me. I'm not kind of being big-headed about that, but I'm able to help them see things differently, knock some corners off their workload, help them make the jobs survivable. You do need mentors in your life that are able to use their experience and knowledge and their wisdom to make your life easier and to make it survivable. It's a bit of that containment thing as well. I have a really good coach that I work with, and I've worked with him for a long time, Matt, and he's been like a rock for me all the way through, and people probably also, like you're saying, don't realise you need people that are going to mentor you, and that's a very Stoic thing as well. And like the Stoic philosophers would say, you always should have a mentor. You need like a Seneca who's going to like be your your sage, but also challenge you and support you to improve
But I think
yourself.
actually what's interesting developmentally in our society, and we were talking about it during the break, is that I look at other cultures and I look at how they behave, because I think we've so much to learn by reaching out and looking at and seeing what they do incredibly well.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate, and I think I've been privileged all my life to have done all sorts of things which other people haven't had the opportunity to do. Yeah. So my mum and dad moved to Hong Kong, and my dad was influenced very, very heavily in that, because during the war, he was on a ship which had a fully Chinese crew, and his respect and his understanding about the Chinese was phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he got a job in Hong Kong working for the government.
Yeah.
He was looking after all the quarries and the roads and everything else in Hong Kong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you learn in the Chinese that the wise people in their society are the older people.
Yeah.
So they're venerated in lots of ways.
Well, let's put it this way. Like, I think where I'm going to generalise a little bit here. I don't want to offend anybody, but if I generalise here, where do people go for their advice these days? They're going to go to their phone and they're going to look on social media, aren't they? And
they're going to Google it. Yeah.
Or they're going to Google it, yeah. And actually, we're missing a trick here, aren't we? Because actually, the people they should be going to are the wise and elderly people, probably in their family unit and in their community unit, because they will understand more about their context and they'll have that human connection. You're right. I think we've lost a lot of that.
I think actually, if I look at the population and I look at the vulnerability around, and I would hate it because I don't think I would survive being a teenager in today's society.
Yeah.
The expectation, the pressure, the peer group pressure, all the things that are going on make it very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And you need mentors.
Yeah. And I think the challenge will always be, as you were talking, I was thinking, like, whenever I've needed advice, right? Yeah, Dad, can you help me? But not everybody has, or will have somebody that can act in that way. I feel so blessed and so lucky that I was born into that family. And if I had to roll the dice again, I don't think I'd be so lucky. So how do we engender that in our society where our communities are better at looking out for each other?
We have to go back to the role of being a parent and philosophically understanding what your role and responsibility is.
Yeah. That I don't know how we do that, but I think about that a lot. How do we shift what's important in our society, in our culture, to encourage people to think in that way? I don't really have any solutions to that at the moment, but all I see is that it's moving so fast in the opposite direction.
Correct.
That I always wonder whether we'll just end up imploding completely, and so we'll have to go completely the other way.
I think if we look at young people and we look about their association, particularly in their family, it's about people understanding that they have to constantly and continuously communicate.
Yeah, it's relentless.
It's hard.
Yeah. It's just choosing how and who you communicate with, I think, is the important thing.
I think actually it's quite interesting because the only compensation that I have, and technology is to be thanked for it, is that I can FaceTime my children every week. And I sit down and I talk to both of my kids for at least an hour every week. And I think as I was growing up, I can't remember sitting down with my mum and dad. We had lots of conversations which probably accumulated into over an hour, but they were intense conversations about what was going on. And I had those conversations all the time with Kim and with Tom.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting fact that we try to share with our parents around language. So you can connect yourself to the computer and your family and yourself, but nothing will beat reading or speaking to your children.
Yeah.
And reading to your child once a day is so effective, to the point where the difference between having no stories and 5 stories a week is 1 million words that they will learn. 1 million. So the 1 million word gap just from one story a day is incredible.
When I ran an adult education centre, we had an element within the curriculum and the stuff we were trying to do, which was pretty innovative, but it was about recognising adult literacy. And so teaching older people to read who couldn't read and couldn't write.
And literacy is so important. And the thing that I realised this week as well is that the way that the route that we are going down is going to be heavily influenced, I think, by artificial intelligence and super intelligence. But you have to have really good literacy skills to be able to engage with artificial intelligence. And at the moment, that might be kind of written because we're doing lots of typing, but even speaking and understanding and communicating with AI is going to be really, really important. So
I think actually it's interesting because we were talking about AI as we drove over here. It's the quality of your questions which are going to get the quality of your answers.
And the quality of your knowledge as well. So there's a myth that we don't need knowledge because we can Google it, we can use Wikipedia. But unless you have knowledge about the thing that you're looking to get knowledge about, it's meaningless. So I couldn't use AI to do brain surgery because I would not have the knowledge. It doesn't matter how good AI is at giving me instructions. I would not understand the language. I would not understand the pedagogy, the way to do the actual surgery. So we still need language and education. It's so important.
Yeah, I think actually it's really quite interesting because I did for a while, I was very much involved in catering, and there's a great thing is that you can only produce a fantastic meal with fantastic ingredients. And it starts with the ingredients, and that discipline around the ingredients makes a great meal. And I think the same is also true, and I've learned by doing it with AI. If you're going to have a dialogue, it is the quality of your questions which is going to influence the quality of the responses.
And also, let's face it, like if you were given a recipe and Michael Caine was given a recipe, he's going to produce a better meal than you, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
because of all of his background knowledge.
Because he's learned, and I know Michael. I met Michael and spent time working with him. One of my chefs who worked in an organisation that I was responsible for actually was trained by Michael, who went through, and we talk about what's happened to you. One night, driving back from Gidley Park, he's driving back in his 911, right, going very quickly after quite a long shift. He has a very serious accident, as a result of which he lost an arm.
Lost his arm,
So he's a chef, and he manages with only one arm, and that's because of all the hard yards he put in and the discipline that he created in his learning. So he has to modify everything to accommodate his one arm.
I think that also speaks to, without trying to go off on a tangent here, about how adaptable humans are. Like we are more robust and adaptable than we realise. We can survive some really kind of awful things.
But so many people's first response is, I can't.
Exactly. It should be, I can't yet. I just need to work out a way to go through those barriers and get to where I need to get to. And that's often, I think, a skill that we lack now in society is resilience. Resilience.
Let's go back and keep up on the theme because it's so important. I feel quite messianic about this in terms of what we do and how we make a change is to actually realise and recognise. I've done a number of podcasts now, and the one thing that comes through is the influence of mentors. And we need to actively develop the whole concept around mentors. If we look at Budley and the community that we live in, we have got some of the most brilliant mentors. We just have no way of accessing or developing that capability at the moment.
Connecting people. It's the mentality, first of all, isn't it? Like we said, that people don't realise the importance of having a mentor, like even if it's informally. And people may have this through their work, or maybe even through a club, that there's maybe like an older player on the team that is mentoring them. So a bit of self-awareness, I think, is really important. But then, how do you connect people who don't have mentors, or how do you enable people who are willing to give their time and their experience? Because I think what I see in Budley all the time is there is lots of willing people. People want to do.
But it's how do we harness it?
How do you harness it? How do you get people?
It's like running a Mahout training session, isn't it?
But you get some people that will put themselves forward. So and I definitely connect some through our volunteer scheme at St. Peter's. You know, I can see the difference that some of the volunteers that come in give to our younger children, because that's what they're doing really. They might be reading a story or playing a game, but really they're mentoring them. You know, how are you managing this at playtime, or how's that thing going that we talked about last time?
I think if you and I reflect and we look back. Besides, and we almost take it for granted, and I'm not taking it for granted because I don't think everybody is as privileged or as blessed as we have been in having parents who've been so engaged and involved in what we do. It's about recognising that those older people, whoever they are, we've had mentors in all sorts of different ways.
And our privilege isn't necessarily been just through parents, but through the education that we've had, or the jobs that we've had that have maybe enabled those mentors to naturally or indirectly engage with us. So I still remember, and I will tell you this, and it's not an incidental story, but I remember because sometimes things step out and they're so dramatic.
So you have to imagine I'm teaching in a very large comprehensive school. We have all sorts of teachers and so forth. And my room, which is my office, is usually full of all sorts of incidents or troubles or whatever else that may have happened. And I can hear a phenomenal, almost like a riot going on down the corridor. Yeah. And I walk down, I look inside to see the kids are in disarray. It's like a riot's going on inside. And I remember knocking on the door because I have to respect them. They are the teacher. And I go in and they all dive back, sit on their seats and sit down.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember this young teacher looking at me and said, "How do you do that?"
Yeah. It was probably respect, wasn't it?
It was. And let's go back to that because I think that's so, so important. I learned when I started these podcasts with Scotty Mills, the perception of Royal Marines is that it's all physical, they're toughies and they run and they dive and they jump and they shoot guns and they do all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's so far from the truth. What they imbue in those people from the moment they get there is respect.
Yeah, yeah. Well, respect is the number one value we have at St. Peter's. Right. So our ethos is based. So we're a church school, so we have an ethos that's based on the story of the Good Samaritan. But we choose some values that really are kind of agnostic to that. You know, respect is probably the most important thing, and we talk about it in three ways. So the first is like respect for yourself. That's really important, isn't it? And we've already talked about why that's important this morning. But you have to know what you're good at. You have to know what you're not so good at. You need to have self-esteem. Those are like key things that everyone needs to have.
And
self-awareness. And self-awareness, definitely. And then we say about respect for each other. So you have to have compassion. You have to have understanding for other people. You have to have empathy for other people. And it's really nice in primary school because then you get an enormous amount of kindness that the children show to each other, and they're very good at being advocates for change. Advocacy is a big thing that they like to do. So raising money, you know, doing things for charity, looking out for each other. We have a lovely buddy system in the school where the year fives are buddies with the reception children.
Oh, wow.
So they send them a postcard before they arrive to say, "I'm going to be your buddy." Then they have lunch with them once a week. They do playtimes and reading with them. We just had a film night where they came together. So respect for each other is really important, and you're explicitly teaching those year five children the importance of looking out for children who are younger than you, and you know they're thinking then about, you know, oh yeah, it was quite tricky when I first started school, wasn't it? Because everyone's bigger than me and I didn't know what to do at playtime. So they're starting to learn those values of respect there, and then respect for the environment. Because let's face it, we're killing our planet. So if we don't respect what's going on around us, then we're missing a trick there to teach the next generation about, you know, how they can really change things.
I think it's interesting because even it's now becoming much, much more accepted, this whole consciousness about the environment that we are a part of.
Yeah, and it's really hard. We are in a culture that is driven by consumerism and materialism. So our first priority is always around the bottom line and what's most affordable. And so it's very hard for the, let's say school the organisations like schools and education to do things, because we are constrained by budgets. We're constrained, you know, if the children want the country to use less crisp packets and less plastic and be plastic free, and they can do as much as they can in coming in with as much plastic free packed lunches as possible. But at the end of the day, we can't change the economics of the country. The children will have written to the MPs and they write to the companies, but it's really hard for them to do anything because there's this huge economic juggernaut that is preventing us from acting with those intentions to change climate change.
Actually, listening to you, I don't know why it's triggered for me that advert that appears on television with that kid who's got a great big rucksack or a great big bag on his back.
Yeah.
And he goes into school and everything he does, he sits down and keeps his bag on, he's isolated and he's on his own and so forth. And I actually think back at the time that I was involved how isolating school can be for some people, how they don't like it and they don't love it and they haven't fallen in love with the whole idea at all. And there's assumption amongst society that you go to school because it'll be good for you.
Yeah.
And yet they find it a tortuous journey.
Yeah. So this is a common theme we're having in education at the moment, is a sense of belonging. So if you don't feel that you belong to your school, then why would you go to it? And there's some things that are inadvertently happening in our education system that we've already discussed around kind of like, if all we measure is reading, writing and maths, that's instantly going to put off some children because they're not going to be the best at reading, writing and maths. Yeah. So belonging is such an important thing. And respect and belonging kind of go together here, because it's interesting. Like I think certainly when my parents went to school, you had utmost respect for school. You would not question anything that they did. And respect for all of our public organisations is at an all-time low at the moment. It took an upturn during the pandemic, when I think parents realised how difficult teaching and managing a whole class of children really is. So you don't get respect anymore from anybody. You have to kind of earn it. And one of the ways that you can do that is by making sure that your families feel that they belong to your organisation. They have to feel that it's their school, because when they feel that it's their school, then they can start to be respectful, and you have to be respectful to them. You have to respect back. And I think when you go into the Marines, it is probably an expectation that you're going to respect everybody, but I'm sure there's probably also things that generate that respect through the recruits. So it's a little bit of chicken and egg as well. So we have had to work really hard at St. Peter's to make these values really explicit and really model them. So there was certainly a time when, let's say, I don't know, probably 8 years ago, where we were most concerned that the children didn't have manners and respect. Because we have the ethos that we have now, we really noticed how respectful they are. So just simple things like holding a door open for an adult, using their manners for everything. Those are really simple, respectful things, but they have to be really explicitly taught and really explicitly modelled for them to happen these days. It's not automatic.
They train people. They use repetitive learning to actually train people that this is what you do.
Yeah.
And this is how you do it.
Well, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's
and
what
you
we're doing.
have to go on over and over and over.
Yeah.
It is not a question of being forgiving. It's constant and continuous in that input.
And that's been one of the biggest learning experiences for me as a leader in a school, is that whatever you want to do, you cannot expect it to happen as an event. It's a process, and it's an ongoing process. It's going to be repetitive. So I can't ever expect that children are just going to be respectful and I can finish that. Like, I need to constantly teach them these are the things that
and draw them up short if they don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they don't say please, if they don't say thank you, demand it.
Yeah. We use the phrase insist. So we insist that it happens, because there's some nice little subtle techniques that we can have that are like not too shameful and not too targeted, so that they're kind of like learning it in the nicest way possible.
I think actually it's quite interesting. Let me expand the whole theme around respect, because if we apply it globally, I actually theoretically, and it's only theoretically, not that I've spent a lot of time looking at it and kind of going, first of all, I live in a society now where there are certain people in that society who I cannot respect for what they view and about the way that they behave.
Well, I'd go one step further to say that the people that we see most prominently in society actively practice disrespect. It's a strategy that they're using to disrupt the whole of the world.
Right.
So, if we're seeing let's face it, it's our politicians and our big leaders of industry, they are actively disrespectful in everything that they do. They're really tearing up the rule book and how things are happening. That permeates through society.
It becomes part of normal language, doesn't it?
It becomes part of normal language, and like I don't really know why we accept that.
No, nor do I. But I also think if we go back, and I was going to link this with another thought that I often have, we have no trust about those people and about what they say or what they do. And politicians in particular now will appear, and I can hear people talking, they don't trust them.
Yeah. Trust is completely lacking.
It is the glue that holds an organisation together.
But I think with trust, I think there's a lot, respect and belonging are an important part of that as well. Mm-hmm. So we probably won't get political on this. We shouldn't, but there's a lot of division that we see in our country, which is because people don't really know where they belong anymore. Like how do we define ourselves? So probably not something we should go down.
I've got the strongest thing screaming through my head, actually, which is something I learned from my mum, who during the war packed parachutes. That's what she actually did. She packed parachutes. Yeah. And the learning that I made about packing parachutes is about discipline and about order, and it's about repetition. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again and being consistent. Because if a parachute fails, it's pretty fatal to the person using the parachute.
Yeah. Discipline is, you're only going to get it with repetition. So the phrase that we're using at St. Peter's at the moment is it's a Sisyphean task. So it feels like every day you're going to have to push that rock up the hill. And we roll back down the next day, but you have to keep pushing the rock. And it probably does get easier the more that you do it.
I don't know, you've got rocks, mahouts and elephants all over the place.
I have analogies for everything. But it helps.
Good.
It's that sort of thing I was saying, the language that you used to think is also the language you think to feel. So having those mental models really does help. And I think that's probably a trick that I overutilize.
Let me go back to my mum packing parachutes, because the statistics around it, the interesting research that was actually done is that sometimes parachutes malfunction for various reasons. There's a whole bunch of different reasons. And one of the things that they wanted to eliminate in packing the parachutes was to make sure that at every stage, and you'll see it now in production, is that people would sign a little ticket to say that they had done it and that it was done to their best of their ability, and they put their name associated with it. So when it came to accountability, this parachute has malfunctioned. Who actually did that, and when was it actually done? It was traceable, and it fundamentally changed the statistics in terms of the malfunctions.
Yeah. Well, there's something about responsibility there, isn't there? Over, you're doing such an important job here that you have to do it right, because someone's life is on the line.
I'll take it even a step further than that, Steve, because I now adopted that.
Yeah.
And in my relationships with other people, I quite often have to ask myself and interrogate myself this question: would I trust them to pack my parachute?
Yeah. Well, I think a similar thing probably applies to what we do in teaching now. Like, teaching has become more refined in the last 10 years. We've gone through a bit of a kind of revolution, and we've realised we have to break things down into very small steps for teachers and make sure they can do each step really, really well. And that involves lots of repetition, lots of checking that it's done right in every single step.
Right.
Because then you get consistency.
And you get checklists and making sure.
You do, yeah. Things have become really kind of finite. Now, I think probably when you were in the classroom, with all respect to your practice, you probably got by because intuitively you picked up some skills and some strategies that were really helpful and that you knew that worked, and you could iterate those processes to the point where you were got the respect of the class.
But I never ever formalised that in terms of my thinking or about how I behaved or what was actually going on.
Yeah, which would have made it harder for you to translate that learning to somebody else, like your colleague.
Okay.
Whereas these days,
we've got to stop because the power's just gone.
Is that the whole of the power?
Go and see the electrician. Tell him he's fucked everything up, all right?
Whoops.
Oh,
just in the flow as well. Is there a toilet here as well during the next break?
Yeah, there is. Out the door, just go down and you'll see it. It's the one with the mat outside of it.
Power's still on that, isn't it? So it must be just once. The power's still on for
partial.
most
I don't think. I mean, it's probably a circuit that he's taken out. I think he's taken a lighting circuit out.
Yep.
The power circuit's here. It's the lighting. Sorry, I actually, between university and work, I also worked as an electrician. So he's taken the lighting circuit out.
He definitely has. That's my dad's trade. He was an electrician.
Mm-hmm. I got into it because I went to do some work when I was at university to earn some money with a guy who I played rugby with. Yeah. And his idea of testing whether something was live or not was to touch it. I mean, Pete used to do that all the time.
What?
And I used to go, "You're mad. You're completely mad."
That is a bit mental.
He's done something to your lights. Is it the electricians here working?